Hi, welcome back. I'm going to get to the second section, which says use special right triangles to express each trigonometric ratio, and then write it as a fraction, and then express that as a decimal. Now, I don't have a calculator handy, so I'm not going to express it as a fraction. All you have to do is when you have root 3 is, if you're working on your phone, just type in 3 and then take the square root of it. Or if you have a graphing calculator, type second x squared and 3 and then hit enter, and that'll give you an answer. Or else you can divide by the other number and everything will be great. But for our purposes right now, I just want to write out the ratios. I think writing the ratios is the most important thing. Doing the math after the fact, I think calculators can really handle that. But you cannot do the math on a calculator until you know where you're starting from and what the ratio is. So I'm about to show you how to get there. The first one is finding the sine of 30 degrees. Okay, so we're going to go to our 30, 60, 90 right triangle. And we're going to copy this down. You're going to copy this down so that you remember what this looks like. We've seen this before. I want you to copy it exactly. And I want you to copy this exactly. Pause it, copy it down. This is how it works. Just make sure that this is root 2, this is root 2, and this is 2. This is 2, 1, and root 3. So let's move on. It says, find me the sine of 30. And we know that the sine is the opposite over the hypotenuse, right? Sine equals opposite over hypotenuse, right? Just like we've done every single time so far. I don't think I'm going to say it too much longer, but that's the way it goes for right now. We're going to work with this right now. So what they're talking about is starting from the 30-degree angle, compare the opposite side to the adjacent side. Opposite side to the hypotenuse. That's what it says right there. Sorry about the mistake. Opposite side to the hypotenuse. So the opposite side to the 30-degree angle is 1, and the hypotenuse, of course, is 2. And that math you can do real easy in your head, right? Okay, so we can move on to the next thing. The next one says, what is the tangent, oh my gosh, of 45 degrees? And everybody knows the tangent of 45 degrees, or you will momentarily, because we're going to talk about 45 degrees, and we can pick either of these 45-degree angles. It'll be exactly the same. If we choose this one, the opposite is square root of 2, and the adjacent is the square root of 2. So the square root of 2 divided by the square root of 2. Son of a gun, we know that, right? If you started from over here, it would be exactly the same thing. The square root of 2 divided by the square root of 2. Now, we already know the decimal form of that answer. It's actually a whole number, right? So now we know the sine of 30 is 1/2. The tangent of 45 is 1. Okay, here's the last one, and this is the one where you actually have to do some math on a calculator. So I'm going to get back over here. I'm going to erase this little arrow right here because this says, I want to know what the cosine of 60 degrees is. And I'm going to start right here at this 60-degree angle. Go back to this guy. And I'm going to say, well, what's the cosine? Well, cosine, we remember, is the adjacent side divided by the hypotenuse. Okay? The length of the adjacent side, which is right next to that arrow, right? That isn't the hypotenuse. The length, oh, son of a gun. If that isn't a 1 as well. Okay. Well, the cosine of 60 is 1 over the hypotenuse of 2. Look at that. The first 3 are real easy to do in your head. All right? So the first 3 are 1 over root 2, which is 1 over 2, which is 1/2, which is 0.5. Tangent of 45, root 2 over root 2, which is 1. Cosine of 60, which is the exact inverse of sine of 30. I don't want you to worry too much about that language. It's the exact same thing. So it's also a half. So far, so good. Do the rest of them. I apologize for the square root bit.